So maybe you can walk us through, first of all, the reason why government decided that there was a need for a new player to come and replace the two whose contracts were not yet done.
Well, good morning to your listeners and yourself, and let me apologize for the length of time that it's taking for you to get me to speak on this matter, because your guy has been calling me to talk. I asked him to speak to my colleague, Kwiku Kwating, but he insisted he wanted to speak to me. So I'll try my best and see if I can help. Governments, it's a prerogative of government to decide on the best way to maximize revenue for development. I'm sure that people, you are aware that people sometimes complain that this, that hospitals are that, and all they want to see is that government comes in to fix these things that they complain about. As to how or where government gets money from, all we know is taxes. That's it. As to how the taxes are mobilized, as to how they are maximized, as to how they are even collected, people don't, actually, worry themselves with that. They just want to understand. Now, if a government is where they are sold, and they think that in going through certain processes, they realize that the way and manner revenue is collected is probably, let me use the word compromise. They certainly have to find a way to, as it were, adjust, realign the collection to meet its own expectation or its own maximization. And that is exactly what government did. You used some words which I don't want to comment on, like their contract is not up yet, and so on. But the point of the matter is, we came in as a government. We looked at the revenue that was, coming in. We saw reports from World Bank, other donor, partners that suggested that Ghana could mobilize revenue, over and above what we are collecting at a point. So it started with a paperless project, which the Vice President commissioned, or the EMT commissioned. And you would bear with me that after it was commissioned, we jumped from, I think, a whooping 10 billion or so collection to about 13 billion in the first year. And we continued the billion thereafter until we got into this situation of COVID. So we should tell every Ghanaian that this government is not just, manipulating systems or ensuring that people lose their jobs or whatever, but we find ways to make whatever exists better. And that's what we have done. When we did our needs and gaps analysis in the fall, we realized that these two systems that you just mentioned about, one, they did not constitute what we call a single window, because each of them was performing a single window function. It might interest you to note that a vendor who sits behind a system would have to go into one particular front end and do a document, close it down, open another service provider's front end, do another document, close it down, come back to this one, input what you have done on the other one into this before you can do your declaration. Even when you get to the port, the systems that determine who releases the cargo or who provides a delivery allowed mandate and the one that arranges joint inspection are two different systems. What kind of single window is that? And meanwhile, because these two systems are not on the same level with regards to licensing and security, they are not able to configure or meet each other, and therefore it creates loopholes. We saw so many things that had gone on in the process that people had taken advantage of, duties that were, compromised and so on and so forth. So it was decided that we find a single window system, a system that you open just one front end, and before you get to the back side, you are exiting the port without going through any other vendor, and so on and so forth. If you look at the current system that we have now, apart from even these two people or these two systems, companies that we have, there are other vendors that are plugged in, even including the recent CTN that also came on board. So it tells you a certain story that if you really want to have a seamless process, what you need to do is to, as it were, identify the shortfalls of whatever system you have and plug whatever loopholes and fix the left out. So we started looking out. Somebody will ask, why didn't you take one of the existing two companies? Then I'll ask that somebody, which of the two would you have preferred us to take?
Was one better than the other?
I would want you to answer that question, because from where I stand, it would be undiplomatic for me to say that one was better than the other, because I have my choice out of the two. But for your information, it would be suicidal for any government to say that I prefer you to this one or I prefer that one to this one.
Okay, then perhaps we can approach it from a different angle. GCNet has spoken publicly and said that they actually are capable of providing the entire flow, the entire single window. They could have done it. Was that an option available to government?
Well, I don't even need you to tell me that. I'm aware. And I know that GCNet is capable and can do this from end to end. I know that. But haven't you heard West Blue also say the same thing? West Blue, the smaller of the two, almost swallowed GCNet. When they came in 2015, they almost swallowed GCNet. And because of this, GCNet and West Blue never got on. And that is where the configuration misappropriation came in. So the two of them were not, actually logged in. They were not talking to each other. So it gave a loophole for people to pass through. I am aware of it. I am a GCNet person through and through. I am a pioneer of the GCNet system. And I can tell you what change or what development GCNet represents in our revenue mobilization in Ghana. But the fact is, they sat down for a second player to come in who was stronger politically, not system-wise. They were stronger politically than GCNet. GCNet didn't play the political game for obvious reasons. And for that matter, I myself, when I was on the private side, when I was the president of the freight forwarders, I was always fighting or chastising GCNet. Move on. I've always said that GCNet is like a Leyland truck with 12 gears that have always driven on the third gear. They had more room for improvement. But why? They sat down for this to happen. And you couldn't also blame them, because a government in power is the one that determines what happens. And they went in to bring West Blue. And West Blue, being the smaller of the two, was trying to swallow GCNet. That's why I just told you that West Blue, when they developed PASS, which is at the beginning of importation and clearance, they went back the back end to also develop GIMIX, which is a joint inspection thing at the port. And they were the ones that were always calling themselves a single window provider in Ghana. And for a government such as ours, we will not say West Blue go and let GCNet stay, or GCNet go and let West Blue stay. No.
Why not, though? Why not? It seems like you have the information about which of them is better positioned to do what the government of Ghana needs. You have that information, so why not?
Did you not just say that the two of them have contracts? Why would you want me to choose one over the other? You probably we should have maybe asked the public to choose one for us so that the government will stay with whichever one. But in any case...
but that's why you're there, with your expertise, so that you can choose for us.
So in the belief that we are there to do the best for the nation, we decided that let the two people sit, or let the four people who are doing the single window chain sit. We will find a single window provider that is superior in terms of revenue security and protection, in terms of revenue mobilization and so on, to what exists.
So instead of cancelling... Sorry, please go ahead.
And we looked through the paperwork, and we realized that in 2015, the government of the day decided to bring in the Korean Unipass Kupia. Why they were left off the hook, or why they were asked to go back, we don't know. But they trained customs officers. They did everything possible to get the system working. After 6 months of training, when they were about to sign a contract, they brought West Blue from Nigeria and sacked the Koreans. So the government of President Kufuor said, no, let us bring these Koreans back and tell us what they can do better than these two or these four people that are operating one single window. So we brought the Koreans back. And I can tell you that if you look at what system that they have, it is all these people who are vendors who are operating the single window, the double single window or quadruple single window, all of them put together. The Korean system is able to provide that. So why would anybody question the government's integrity in bringing up this change? Because we cannot select West Blue and leave GCNet, and neither can we select GCNet and leave West Blue. We would certainly be chastised in the face of the court of public opinion, as even is happening today. So don't let us limit ourselves to that angle where we think that because GCNet came before West Blue, or because West Blue is a stronger system than GCNet or whatever, we should select one of them. It's not possible. If the two of them would have spoken and come together as a single company, this situation would not have happened. But I know that is impossible. It's like asking Pakistan and India to sit at the table and be balanced again. So I would want us to understand that whatever is happening is not aimed at disenfranchising a particular company or trying to pick on one or two companies, but it is what the system or what the government of the day thinks is best for the nation, to mobilize revenue to do your roads and fix your hospital.
Okay. Now this is when Honorable Carlos Ahinkra, you talked about the fact that the two had contract, but West Blue's contract was going to expire at the end of this year. If you had waited till 2020 to start, why couldn't you have waited for West Blue's contract to end and then GCNet, which you say had 12 gears and were operating at the third gear, continue?
Well, you see, I haven't seen this contract you are talking about. I'm sure you've seen it. That's why you're talking about the expiry date or when it's supposed to finish. But the point is, in every contract, there are termination clauses. And in the termination clauses, it will indicate what the various parties can stand on to terminate the contract. For example, it could happen that in the contract, it will say that in providing this service, we would want you to have a transactional price database updated regularly, or a risk management engine to support the risk profiling of imports. If it is not done, or if it is not fixed by this point, this is the remedies available to the other party. I'm just speculating. I don't know. It will say so many things. It will give reasons why anybody could terminate a contract. Of course, the contract without a termination clause is not a proper contract. Lawyers will tell you. So if it so happens that their contract is being terminated, I also want to be corrected that I am not part of that contract, so I don't have a copy of the contract, of the West Blue contract. And indeed, the West Blue contract was even signed by the Ministry of Finance then in 2015 by Mr. Setekwe. So I want to believe that if anybody terminated that contract, then they had a very good reason to terminate that contract. Don't forget that West Blue is entitled to go to court any day. GCN is entitled to go to court any day. Nobody is going to stop them. But when you go to court, the contract will be interpreted.
Yes, but just by way of clarification. So, yes, the West Blue contract was signed by the Ministry of Finance, but the Ministry of Trade and Industry, of which you are a deputy minister, plays an important role when it comes to happenings at our port. Are you saying, yes, great. Are you saying that you do not know when that particular contract would end or expire?
You see, my brother, you are talking about when contracts expire without limiting yourself also to what can cause somebody to terminate the contract before it expires. I mean,
so what caused us to terminate it before it expires? Maybe that will help. What caused us to terminate it before it expired?
Yes, sir. So if you listen to me, I said that one, I will not party to that contract, and two, I don't even know what is enshrined in that contract. But anyone who terminated that contract would tell you the reasons why they did that, and I'm sure that they have a very good reason to terminate the contract. So you don't always have to wait for contracts to expire. Contracts are made to be broken.
So the trade.
And that is why you keep all these things in there. And, if there's any compensation you need to pay to anybody, you go ahead and pay. I'm sure your lawyers will explain this to you if it's something you do not understand.
Okay, so Mr. Ahinkra, to clarify, what you're telling us is that the Trade Ministry has nothing to do with the termination of the West Blue contract.
If you want me to stress on that, the West Blue contract was signed in 2015 by Mr. Setekwe, who is the finance minister. So I don't see how the trade ministry can come in and terminate the West Blue contract. It's not possible.
Were you aware that
it was terminated? If it was terminated, it was terminated by the current finance minister, who has the rights over that contract.
Were you aware that the contract was going to be terminated? Was the trade ministry aware of this? Did the finance ministry communicate with you?
Unfortunately, no.
Wow.
Yes, because they are working, and I don't know whether you know the work of West Blue. West Blue's job was to provide a platform for customs to do classification and valuation. And listen to it, let me repeat it. West Blue's job, main job, was when the destination inspection companies were collapsed, or when they were asked to put down their tools. Customs had to take over their core mandate of valuation, according to the General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs. And in doing so, because Customs didn't have the capacity to, as it were, provide their own valuation platform, they had to get somebody to help them. And that's why I said they brought in the Koreans and now later brought West Blue in. So West Blue's job was only supposed to support them to do what the destination inspection companies were doing. But fortunately for West Blue, they probably got lucky and had more, chance to, as it were, add on to whatever they were giving to regards to the evaluation and classification. And that's why we had our pre-arrival something, and also gimmicks in the port.
Okay.
So I'm coming. Hold on.
Go ahead.
So
please.
it stands to reason that if anybody would want to find out why it was the finance ministry that signed and not the Ministry of Trade, this probably would be the reason behind. But for me, if you ask me, I'll say that it was an error, because when it comes to trade facilitation, and this is a proper trade facilitation function, you do not allow another ministry aside the trade ministry to deal in this. In actual fact, the destination inspection companies all signed their contracts with the Ministry of Trade. So for the finance ministry then to jump in, for us, we can't tell why. But of course, it means that if anything should also happen therefrom, then the finance minister today will have to deal with it, not us.
Right. So let me get this. Who brought in Unipass? Was it the trade ministry?
If you say who brought in Unipass...
Who signed the contract with Unipass?
Yes, of course. The trade ministry signed that trade facilitation.
Now, at the time you signed that contract, you did not know that the finance ministry was going to terminate West Blue? Is that what you're saying?
I don't see how we're supposed to know whether they're going to terminate West Blue or not.
But your plan was to replace them both.
Let me try and explain to you.
Okay.
One, because you're speaking to a deputy minister. I am not a cabinet minister. I don't know what was discussed at cabinet. For anything to happen, there's a series of things that will happen before the final thing will happen. So it could happen that probably between the two ministers, substantive ministers, they knew what they had discussed either in cabinet or either in private, and they knew how to go about this. But as far as I'm concerned, we signed a contract as a total trade facilitation regime to support the revenue mobilization and also serve as a TradeNet platform for Ghana.
Well, just by way of clarification, Winston here. So I have a cabinet document dated 18th January that talks about the National Implementation Team for Unipass, and this comprises representatives of the following: Ministry of Finance, Trade and Industry, Ministry of National Security, Ghana Revenue Authority, Ghana Link. And the introduction says, Cabinet at its 46th meeting held on Wednesday, 16th January, considered a report of the Cabinet Committee on Economic Matters on the above subject, and the report focused on matters relating to the implementation of the Unipass system. So clearly, this is a decision that was taken by Cabinet.
Thank you very much for answering my question for me, yes.
Right. So in essence,
but how did you get that document? You're a smart guy.
So in essence, Mr. Ahinkra, the clarity here is that the decision to bring in Unipass was made by a team that includes both ministries, your ministry and the finance ministry.
From what you read, you have just said so.
Okay, so that means it wasn't a mystery to the trade ministry that West Blue was going to be terminated.
But I just explained to you that I am not from the document that you read right now, I am not party to that meeting because I'm not a cabinet minister.
So you were not.
From what you read,
you were not aware of
that. It means that some transaction or some arrangement or some discussion had already gone on to get us to this position. So I am not, in disagreement with your question.
Okay, it's just that earlier when I asked, you said that Trade Ministry did not know that West Blue's contract was going to be terminated. That's why I'm seeking this clarity.
No, don't just turn my words. I told you point blank that we don't have anything to do with that contract. So as to whether it's going to contaminate it or not, it won't be done by us. And I repeated that because the two ministers, substantive ministers, will have to discuss this among themselves and decide on the way forward. Because even though it's a trade facilitation function, one of the obvious fallouts will be revenue maximization, which falls under the finance minister. So certainly, the finance minister will not do anything without consulting the trade minister, and the trade minister will not do anything without consulting the finance minister. But basically, you have gone ahead to be the cabinet member. So it tells us a story that there certainly will be some discussion before we get to where we have gotten to now. So don't turn my words as if you're just trying to find a way to.
No, not at all. I mean, I only asked a question. It was your answer that made us go this way. Okay, so what is the current status of these contracts with West Blue and GCnet? Because we understand they're supposed to keep working to the end of June. End of May. Forgive me. So as we speak, do we still have contracts in place, operational contracts with GCnet and West Blue?
I'm sure there must be something like that. Otherwise, they won't be working.
So that means we currently have 3 contracts, GCnet, West Blue, and Unipass.
Yes, but fortunately, none of these get paid by government. You only get paid when you work. So I don't think it's anything that's got to do with government losing revenue or losing money. If you understand what I mean. West Blue, GCnet, Unipass, you only get money or you get paid when you are working. So if I decide to pass my declaration on GCnet, I pay the 0.4%. West Blue automatically will charge me 1%. If I want to do on Unipass, with combine these two, I pay my 0.75%. So indicatively, you only get money or you only get remunerated when you are operating.
Okay, now we're speaking with Mr. Carlos Ahinkra. He's the Deputy Minister for Trade, and he's giving us some insight, helping us understand this process that our ports are going through right now to give us a single window, to make it easier for things to come through our ports. And Mr. Ahinkra, of course, has already explained to us how the government got to the point where they made a decision to replace the 2 vendors with one new one, which is Ghana Link, providing us with the ICOMS system using Unipass technology. Mr. Ahinkra stays with us for more, but right now let me remind you that today's agenda is brought to you on the Super Morning Show by Societe Generale, SG Ghana, the future is you, as well as Mala 2 anti-malaria drug from Ernest Chemist, providing quality and affordable medicine. Now, if you're a student, please stay safe and stay at home if you don't need to leave during this COVID-19 period, and use the time to gain work, money, people, and entrepreneurial skills through Absa Bank's free e-learning platform, Ready to Work. Absa Bank Ghana, through its Education and Skills Development Program, is offering educational support to tertiary students through its free online learning platform as they stay at home. Absa's Ready to Work initiative helps to prepare young people for the transition from school to the world of work, and it equips them with contemporary competencies employers expect, as well as the skills needed to become a successful entrepreneur or employee. So go to readytowork.absa.africa to register and complete the modules within 1 month. The first 2,000 to complete all modules will be rewarded with free data. Absa cares, so stay safe. Now, these are not normal times. We all know this. And moments like these, we draw our loved ones closer. We discover new things and we do better. At Hollard Life Assurance, we like to think that life is about what could go right, not what could go wrong. That's a wonderful message from ABSA. And that's why they've got their existing and new customers COVID covered. Enjoy free automatic cover for COVID-19 claims on individual and group life policies. So, as you figure out how to entertain your energetic kids, how to collaborate on never-ending work from home, and how to hang out with friends together, but apart, Remember, the most important insurance premium to ensure your family's safety is to stay home. Hollard Life Assurance will be there when you need them. So just call 0302-799-788. They have got you covered. Now, let me ask you this. Why? Why leave your home or office when the news is available to you on the go? Download the Graphic News Plus from the Google Play Store or App Store. Enjoy 10% discount on monthly subscription, 15% for 3-month subscription, and 20% discount for 6 months and beyond. Graphic News Plus, connecting people through news. Okay, our guest this morning helping us understand what started to look like musical chairs at the ports when Unipass was brought in to replace GCNet and West Blue is our Deputy Trade Minister, Mr. Carlos Ahinkra. Thank you for staying with us, Mr. Ahinkra. Now, you were explaining to us the current status of the contracts with West Blue, GCNet, and Unipass. And I wondered, so at this point that the contracts are being terminated, what are the conditions under which they are being terminated? At least the one that is being terminated by the Trade Ministry, which would be the West Blue one. The GCNet one. What are the terms under which it's being terminated? And how much will it cost Ghana? How much will we have to pay, if anything?
Like I said, every contract has termination clauses. And as far as I'm concerned, since I don't have the contract before me, I'll not be able to tell you on what grounds the contracts are being terminated. But I can tell you that if there's any termination at all, it's been done lawfully. If there is any compensation, I'm sure the vendors that are affected would have to ask for this compensation, either through discussion with the government or through the courts. But as I speak to you now, compensation is zero. I know of zero compensation. Nobody has discussed any monetary fines or some kind of liability as far as government is concerned. So that is where we are right now.
Okay. Now, I have here with me a letter that was written by the Minister of Trade, Mr. Alan Chermanting, to GCNet. It was addressing a number of issues that GCNet had raised. We won't have time to go through all of them, but there is one that is of interest, and I wondered if you could help us understand it a bit better. So, one of the issues to which this letter was responding is an issue regarding the source code for the system that GCNet has been using. Now, the point that GCNet made to the Trade Ministry was that the source code, and I'm quoting now, the source code for any system is a proprietary product that belongs to the developer. GRA is, however, licensed to use the system without let or hindrance. Data generated from the process is also available to government, subject to the provisions of the Data Protection Act. That was a claim made by GCNet, explaining why they were not going to hand over the source code to the government of Ghana. But the response of the Trade Minister, your boss, Mr. Chermanting, was that Article 105 of the original agreement requires that GCNet shall ensure that government will be granted a perpetual, worldwide, non-exclusive, fully paid license to use and modify the software, including source and object codes used by the CSM and TradeNet systems as customized in accordance with government requirement. GCNet has currently refused to provide relevant data and information on its operation in spite of Article 10.5 of the original agreement. Government of Ghana does not have any proprietary rights over the GCNet system. In contrast, however, government will have the full proprietary rights over the new Unipass system, and the source codes will be fully owned by government. So if I may ask, this letter was dated 19th of March. Are we still expecting GCNet to hand over codes to government, or have we sorted that matter out?
Okay, I'm glad that at least you read the question and the answer, or the proposal and the solution. It's just unfortunate. It's quite unfortunate that GCNet would even make that assertion that the source codes would not belong to government. See, my brother, the GCNet original document, original contract was signed somewhere in the year 2000, October, by the Honorable Dana Bodaki. That it was an NDC government then. And this 10.5 that you just mentioned, I'm sure is in that original document. And for any reason at all, every contract would have to be subjected to the original contract. If any kind of, let's say, discussion or distortion arises in this regard, GCNet cannot say that the source code data and whatever does not belong to government. Because initially when it came, we were only supposed to develop and provide that system for us to operate. Everything thereon belongs to government. Today they're telling us that it doesn't belong to us. You see how it is now. So my minister had to respond in that manner by quoting the original document, the original contract that was signed in 2000, detailing what the contract said with regards to source code, data, and everything. Originally, they're supposed to be the bona fides of the government of Ghana. Right now, because of what has happened, we have written, or the Unipass contract has been written in such a way that everything, including even the licensing, belongs to the Ministry of Finance and by extension government. So we are not going to live in that situation where, someone at a point after 20 years of operation will tell you that no, the licenses, source code and licenses belong to the developer. So that part is not for you. As for the data, if you want any time, you can come and we'll just give you some. We'll give you some. I mean, you can't do that. So that is the difference between the two now. As we speak, if Unipass should become fully functional, then everything thereon, including the licensing and data, becomes government property. That is what my minister was trying to say in that document.
Right. So that's the solution going forward. But has West Blue still held on to those source codes, or have they handed them over to the government of Ghana?
You see, I explained something earlier on. West Blue, we don't need West Blue source codes. I mean, you should understand. West Blue, for as far as we are concerned, are not even, have any data. Which
forgive me, I meant GCNet. My mistake. Okay. I meant GCNet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So GCNet has still not released the source code to government, and that is a very legal and whatever litigating process of matter. Because if government decide that they want this source code and GCNet decide not to release to government, or if GCNet should go to court and government should come with a counterclaim asking for these documents and holding GCNet accountable. Well, if you are not careful, GCNet would rather be held guilty and probably fined heavily. Because you cannot, a whole country's data, a whole country's system, the whole country's source code that a practical document that has been signed, a contract that has been signed, states, stipulates that those things belong to government and we can have access to it at any time, any day, without any hindrance. If we are told after close to 20 years later that it does not belong to us, then there's a problem that we all need to,
Yeah, but it sounds quite serious because that is still the system that is running at the ports until at least until the 31st. And all of that data that we have been locked out of, it has implications, doesn't it? It means that there are loopholes through which corruption can seep. We could be losing millions at the ports as we speak. It sounds like an emergency. What exactly are we going to do to regain control of these source codes, which government insists is their property?
I am glad that at least you, even the layman who don't know anything about revenue mobilization in the ports, you'll be able to identify the seriousness. It is really, really serious. It is really, really, let me borrow the word sabotage. If anybody decides that documents or information that government try for to develop a country will not be released to them, I think that for me is a very serious thing for anybody to even try to do. But however, we are still talking. If you do remember what you read, they said that the data is available and anytime GRA needs them, they would release them to GRA. We are not going to talk about that now. we are asking that the original contract, as you've read at 10.5, be adhered to or be respected. If it's not going to be respected, I'm sure going forward, you're going to hear what will happen as far as government is concerned, what we are going to do to retrieve what is our proprietary rights in regards to the contract that was signed by NDC in 2000.
Right. So at this point, what you're saying is that you're discussing it with GCNet, trying to get those source codes, but in the meantime, we are vulnerable.
Let me, of course, also make that clear that I must be frank with you. GCNet is very open and amenable to discussing. We are meeting them on a constant basis. Even today, as I speak to you, there's a meeting that we're having with them regards to all the. So I don't think that is an open and shut case as far as this matter is concerned. GCNet know that they even do much more than just the revenue collection in the port. I don't know if you are aware that GCNet system is also helping in the collection of income tax, or we call it the domestic trade tax. They do so many things. They have about 46 or let me say 48, agencies, MDAs, populated on the TradeNet platform, including the Registrar General, the Plant Protection, FDA, and so they are all there. Even national security is there on the GCNet system. So it's a TradeNet platform that we have so many government agencies there which are operating. So even if the clearance from the port is taken away, it doesn't mean the end of GCNet. That is why I particularly don't see the reason why GCNet should even have a banter with the government, because you have something. It's not like you are going home dry. You have something. Yes, of course, probably the collection of taxes in the port could be the juiciest of all the contracts that you have, but you're still doing something. The collection of internal revenue money, this income tax, as I said, it's also quite substantial. And I don't know what agreement they have with GRA, but they are doing it to them. And so on. I mean, the tin processing, all tin numbers that I don't know if you have a tin number of your own, but tin number is processed on the GCNet system. A whole lot of things are being done by you. So if I were GCNet today, I will not try to bite the hand that feeds me. I think that if they will take my advice, they should adopt a different approach and see how it works out, because you cannot fight government. You cannot fight authority. Government has decided that this is the direction they want to go. How do you, in your own imagination, decide that you want to fight a whole by doing what? No, it's not appropriate, because you are not finished yet. Then we are all getting it. Happily enough, GCNet comprises of many government agencies when you look at the shareholding structure. So it tells you a certain story that government will not even want to cut you fully. But the point is that we want to find a seamless process, which actually, aligns with our expectation of revenue collection, and also make it a front burner issue, and let that hit the ground running. We don't want a situation where we now have to come and sit 2 groups down or 4 groups down and try to talk to them to agree to each other. It doesn't work like that. So if GCNet would take my advice, I would say that they should not fight government. It's not appropriate.
So to clarify, while this discussion is going on, and you've given them some advice, while this is going on, we are still vulnerable, though, are we not? People can still exploit the loopholes because we don't have access to the data that will allow us to double check things on both ends. Am I right?
No, it's not as simple as you say it. You see, I always tell people that the container in the port is not like a matchbox that you can just go and put in your pocket and take out. No, you still have to do some documentation before you bring out. If you're going to do something about your documentation, that's a different matter. That goes through people, and those people who allowed such a document to go through them to exit are those that will be held accountable. And again, let me also mention that every time people think of our friends and colleagues in the port as those that cause a problem. No. You see, if you do a particular work for, let's say, 10 years plus, the kind of professional experience that you get in that job, actually put you on that pedestal, that point where you are able to advise your clients properly. It does not in any way mean that people make up their mind to go to the port and steal or make government lose money. No. But they work according to the laws of revenue collection. For example, you have a lawyer. When you go to see a lawyer in his office to take up your case, they look at it. No matter how bad it is, this lawyer has to take the case. But he will advise you, go this way, that do that. That is what people in a port do. The real people who hurt the economy, the revenue of this country, probably we are not even looking at that angle. But it's going to come out very soon, according to the processes and works that we are doing. We will come out and let people know that the small ones in the port who are clearing goods that we are always targeting, probably they are not even the problem.
So who are the real people
up there? And we will get them too. Don't worry.
Who are they? Who are the real people causing the problem?
When that time comes, you will know. At this juncture, it's not out yet for us to mention. But we are doing some work, and we'll let people know the government is not prepared to lose any revenue at all.
Well, it sounds like it's the vendors. They are the only other players I can think of at this point. The vendors, West Blue and GCNet.
You have a right. You have a right to think whoever you want to think. But I am not saying the West Blue or GCNet has done anything. The real culprits are there, and we'll find a way to bring them out.
Okay, now let's talk about Unipass and their setup so far. There was a simulation, and we have a copy of what looks like the results of that simulation, and the results are interesting. It appears that a number of things that were attempted by the Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority, they had some difficulty in running this simulation. 16th and 17th of May, that's when it was done, and the results are out. There were in total about 22 processes that they attempted, or 22 actions that they attempted to do on the system. And apart from just a handful of them, about 3 of them, the rest of them didn't seem to work. Are you aware of this? It's an outcome of Unipass system simulation exercise held on the 16th to 17th of May 2020.
I wish that you hadn't mentioned an organization's name. It tells everybody where you got your information from. But anyway, we'll let that pass. For your information, there's no system in this world which is perfect. Of course, you'll get a near perfect system. Number 2, any new system, especially one that has to do with EDI, that other players have to plug in. Certainly, you would get some of these minor left outs that you need to fix. What you are seeing, of course, I'm glad you mentioned, is a simulation. It is a testing guide to tell us what the two systems are not seeing, or what one system is telling the other. And it's the best thing that could happen to anybody or any system rollout. We decided that, hey, okay, all this have been done in the various entry points and, of course, in Takoradi as well as the airport. Now we are coming to the bigger boy, which is Tema. Tema does about 4 times what you get in all those other places put together. So we have to ensure that Tema will just hit the ground running. Okay. We call in the major players, which is the terminal handlers, and that's what I say. I wish you had used the terminal handlers instead of mentioning an organization's name. And of course, the shipping agents. Before anybody could clear goods out of the port, 2 things have to happen. The shipping lines or the shipping agents would have to populate their manifest onto the ICON system, and the terminal handlers would have to receive this manifest into their system. And the manifest, generally only means a collection or information regarding what is contained on a particular vessel on a voyage. If a vessel comes with 300 containers, they have to indicate on a document whom those containers belong to, and that's what we call the manifest. Now, you are talking computer language. You're not talking just human beings presenting manual papers to each and everyone. Unipass as a system the shipping agents have their system, and the MPS has their system. So for the shipping lines to be able to populate onto the ICOMS system, the two systems would have to speak to each other. They have to be configured. And in so doing, if you just, let's say, just let it go without testing, you might have problems or challenges. So we decided to do that. Even though we have done it before, we decided to do that to see what the small left outs are so we can fix it. Well, I don't know whether you understand the document you're holding, but these are not system problems that cannot be dealt with. For example, a particular space is not highlighted. You only have to do the back-end thing and highlight it. For example, they have indicated that a particular space can only take 500 letters. We need more than 500 letters. We make it unlimited. These are not problem challenges that cannot be handled.
Right.
I must admit, though, that people will not want to be frustrated when they have a system going, which no matter how bad that system is, it gives them some kind of relief. And you bring a new system, and they get frustrated on the way. So we need to ensure that we are removing all this frustration before we tell them, go ahead, and now we throw it in. So that is what you are seeing there. These are not problems that cannot be surmounted. They are just very minor problems. Because the real system processes have been written. And as I speak to you, there are some forwarders who are testing or who are even using the ICOMs to process their documents.
Right.
But, of course, I will not run away from the fact that they will face challenges if these two processes, what I mentioned earlier, condition precedent, if they are not, in place, then
right.
a forwarder at the front end cannot go through them and get a seamless or near perfect situation. So basically, yes, we did a simulation. We luckily had this results coming out. They have been fixed. We are doing another one tomorrow. I wish that when that is also done, you would get the same report as you have gotten now through wherever.
We would love to have it. If you share it with us, we would absolutely love that.
Which one?
The one you're going to do tomorrow.
No, but you have a way of getting documents. So I'll ask you.
Getting them from you is one of those ways. Anyway, I think I should point out, and this is important, that this document is a GPHA document. I didn't make it a secret at all. We didn't get it officially from GPHA. We have our ways.
You accepted.
Yes, indeed. But it is actually the results of GPHA's attempt to interface with the UNIPAS system. It is not the result of the UNIPAS system's test at the ports. I think it's important to clarify that. It was GPHA attempting to interface. It's not.
You have said the same thing.
Absolutely.
The UNIPAS system is not sitting in a hospital. It's sitting in a port. It's port. Right. It's how the GPHA system would interface with the UNIPAS. That's what you are seeing.
Absolutely.
So it is all the same. They are all in the port. And I'm saying that even yesterday we sat down with GCNet we sat down with the GPHA on this matter. Now that you have mentioned their name, we sat down with them, their IT people, to listen to these comments that you have just read. Because we were there at the simulation, and we had to sit down again with them yesterday to find out how they have covered these grounds. To even make you look simple to you, we had to even call the originators of the program in Korea for them to speak to these GCNet people to tell them what they are missing or what they are not doing right. And I'm telling you, tomorrow we are doing a new simulation, another simulation. Sunday we'll do another simulation. And you hear the results. The same way you got this one, you'll get another one. Don't worry.
That's wonderful. Of course, later we'll actually speak to one of the freight forwarders who participated. And he will actually be able to give us a bit more of a personal experience from the end user's perspective, which might be more valuable to our audience than the system test that the GPHA did, which came up with these results. So I think it will be important to get that user experience as well. That is ultimately
let me make this contribution. Sure. I would say that until the back end, or the condition precedent I mentioned, the population of the manifest from shipping agents onto the system, and the transfer of that manifest to the terminals for release of cargo, until those things are fixed, the freight forwarders or the users will not have any joy using the system. I have been there before. I know what I'm talking about. And I don't blame them because, like I said, if I have something that no matter how bad it is working some magic for me, and all of a sudden something else coming and it is giving me some kind of problem, then I need to worry. So don't worry them yet. I mean, yesterday I told my minister, I said, my minister, call the leadership of the freight forwarders and all the other agencies that are supposed to use the front end, and let them understand that this is what we are doing. This is what we have seen. We are getting this done and that done by this time. Give them timeline and let them understand that based on what is happening to what we have seen, that's the reason why they are not finding any joy going through ICOMS. But be that as it may, within about 2, 3 days, 5 days, maximum 1 week, all these problems are resolved. These are system problems which shouldn't have any challenges. As far as the operational direction is going to go smoothly, we don't have a challenge. And operational direction means the people who are supposed to support the system in working, if they will come aboard and support, as for the freight forwarders or the front users, they don't have a choice. If government says that go through this lane to get to the back, you cannot say, no, I'll go through another lane and get to it. How do you get to that back? So they are only waiting for government to do all these fixes or finish all these left out. Then they ask them to move and they will move through. So you don't bother them as yet. Let us see how we get these two groups, handling the system well or configuring to the system well before we get to them.
Okay, Mr. Ahenkra, I want to thank you so much for your time. But just before you go, Winston has just one thing he wants to clarify with you. So here's Winston.
Exactly. So if you look at the situational report that was conducted by GIF at the Takoradi port, it talks about few challenges. Now, it says there's a pre-entry situation which affords one the opportunity to request the pre-arrival process, that is valuation and classification. There are a plethora of declarations that began on the 9th of April, and as of 24th April, the process is still not complete. Now, I have a letter in front of me here that is addressed to the Assistant Commissioner GRA, Customs Division Takoradi, dated the 13th of May 2020, that says, delayance in assessing duties by UNIPAS. It says, we hereby write to your high esteemed institution concerning the delayance in assessing duties by UNIPAS on the following. We give the bill of entry number, submission date 28th April 2020, 23rd April 2020, 15th April 2020. And it says the vessel MSC Anna Maria arrived on the 11th of April 2020, and the containers have accrued demurrage to the highest level, and there's no sign that UNIPAS will be assessing the duties now. And they are thus appealing if you can expedite it or allow them to use the old system. One issue that has come up, Honorable Ahenkra, is the payment of demurrage. Some of the freight forwarders have complained that the delay is costing them. How do you intend to resolve that issue?
Okay, well, let me first and foremost deal with the issues that you raised before we talk about your question. I'd like to say, I'm grateful that the current leadership of the freight forwarders or the guardians of freight forwarders is doing very well. In fact, I would say that they actually even pushed for, or requested for that matter, for the 1 month extension of this parallel run because of what they saw in Takoradi. We've been having constant meetings with them. The president actually visited us in the ministry after discussion. My minister asked him to go to Takoradi before the 28th rollout, if you remember, and he brought us a report. Arguably, you can see that it is not a system problem, but a human problem or a personal problem. There are people who are supposed to do some work that they are not doing, because I don't see the reason why someone will send a declaration or a request through a system to you and it stays there for a week or two. For what reason? And we've asked that the commissioner checks this matter and find out what happened for a document to stay in the system. And it's not just one document. I don't know if the president mentioned that in his report. But what the initial report we have gotten is that the fault actually came from the declarant himself. And when he inputted the declaration, there was something missing or something that didn't go right. But again, I still have my mind out, because even if that were so, why don't you send it back to him through the same line or through the same angle and let them know that this is your query. So address it and send it back to us. So these are some of the operational challenges that we are facing. We will do everything, but we have the report on our table. He went, and came back with this report to us. We have the report on our table, and we are solving it. I'm sure that these are some of the observations that we would like to know about and get them resolved. So, yes, that is what I have to say about that. I say thank you very much to the president of the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders and his leadership for that some leadership that they are showing to their members. When it comes to demurrage, when it comes to demurrage, government does not have any control over shipping lines, unfortunately. And two, shipping lines only give 7 days after arrival of vessel for you to clear your goods, after which they start charging money. It is in our interest, or it is our aim, to ensure that people are able to clear their goods even within 48 hours or, not more than that 1 week free time that is given. And that is where this ICOMS or Unipass is heading towards. As for the initial problems that have happened and all this back and forth, I apologize and I sincerely, agree with their frustration. I would say that it would just take a matter of days. We would remove all these bottlenecks and things will move smoothly again. Yes,
but so for those who are currently incurred the demurrage as a result of the operational challenges, who foots the bill?
Oh, but I just mentioned to you that government doesn't have any control over the shipping line. And forwarders, especially forwarders who are where they are sold, they know how to handle kind of matters with the shipping lines. Or shipping agents, let me say. Most of them, or most shipments, or most of the agents have, that direct relationship with shipping agents to request for 21 days free time. It is there. They are not always giving, but if depending on how you present yourself and what relationship you have with these people, 21 days is always given as a maximum for the clearance of goods from the port. So let us see if we can exploit that angle as well.
Right. I guess at this point we have tomorrow's simulation to look forward to. This will be in Tema, right? Not Takoradi.
Yes, of course. This time it's in Tema.
Okay, so larger volumes because Takoradi obviously compared to Tema is much smaller, isn't it?
Thank you very much for your observation. Yes.
Okay, so larger volumes tomorrow, and then we will see for sure the progress that we're making with the Unipass system.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Ahenkra, we're going to stay in touch on this. We're very interested, so we'll stay in touch and keep on top of this matter. Thank you.
I'll be here all the time.
Thank you so much for your time with us. Carlos Ahenkra is the Deputy Trade Minister, seeking to give some clarification to what's been going on with the new Unipass deal and the old West Blue and GCNet deals. Well, So has that made everything crystal for you, or is it clear as mud? Well, we're not done. When we come back, we'll be speaking to the president of the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders, as well as the vice chair of the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders and technical committee chair. So that's Mr. Edward Akrong and Mr. Johnny Manti. Now, one of them has actually been part of this process as well, so he'll have that personal experience that is closer to what matters to you and me, because these are the people who will be clearing the stuff for us. So it's important to get their perspective of how things are unfolding with the new system. Yes, naturally, everything starts with a few hiccups, but let's see whether these things are fatal or fixable. All of that after these.
In a world where everything is changing around you, sometimes you need